The Town of Richfield, 1961. The History of the Milk Industry in Richfield Springs by Howard M. Curtis, completed by Frank Manchester. Dairying always was and still is the biggest part of agriculture in the region. The farmers of the late 19th century in this area sold the greater share of their excess milk to cheesemakers, there being some 25 cheese factories in operation at the time. Otsego and Herkimer counties won nationwide fame for their cheesemaking. However, simultaneously, the city of New York was rapidly becoming a metropolis, and the demand for the fluid milk to supply city residents likewise increased. The New York Health Department, organized in 1866, condemned forcefully the disgraceful and unsanitary conditions of the milk business being carried on within the city limits. Therefore, attention turned to the shipping of fresh milk into New York City from upstate farms. The first milk shipping plant in Richfield Springs was located south of the site now occupied by Dave's Feed Store, recently burned. The plant was owned by Lewis Chase and had an average daily intake of 41 cans of milk. Because of the distance from New York and the condition of the dairies, this plant closed after operating only a year and 4 months. The next move was made by the farmers themselves. A group of them organized what was known as the Richfield Springs Cooperative Creamery, run by Valani Schooley. They erected a building opposite the DL&W engine house on the site now occupied by the Jones oil tanks. On December 10, 1901, George D. Caney, representing the interests of the Cooperative Creamery and those of the Richfield Chamber of Commerce, contacted the Rockdale Milk Company at Rockdale and suggested that the said company either buy or rent the cooperative plant in Richfield. One of his selling points in pushing the proposition was the existence of the many cheese plants within a radius of 10 miles of Richfield. He believed that milk could be readily diverted from those sources to any milk shipping plant, which located permanently in Richfield. The deal went through on March 8th of 1902. On the date, the Rockdale Company took over the Farmers Cooperative Building for a 3-year period, with the privilege of buying at any time within there of the contract. 16 dairies in April of that year began delivering milk, which was manufactured into butter and casein. The plant employed 3 men. The company paid the farmers $1 per hundredweight for April and returned the buttermilk and the whey to the patrons. At about this time, it was rumored that Borden's was going to take over the closed Chase plant. Borden's prices averaged $1.53 a hundredweight for the 6 winter months. To meet this threat and the competition offered by cheese factories, the company put out an extensive drive for better milk during 1903 and 1904. All patrons were asked to purchase surface milk coolers and to build milk houses. At the same time, the company was regularly scouring the barns of their milk contributors and constantly urging greater sanitation. The drive was successful, so successful that, in the fall of 1904, the Rockdale Company closed the Farmers Cooperative, purchased and moved into the Chase Station, and began shipping milk on a large scale. The next decade was one of growth and progress. In 1914, the Rockdale Company, which then controlled 14 plants, decided to sell all except for the Rockdale plant. The Borden Company made the purchase of the 5 largest plants, and by so doing, assumed ownership of the Richfield Springs plant, which they operated for 7 years. The Borden Company, in the course of events, sold its Richfield plant to the Dairymen's League in 1921. Early in the autumn of 1924, the directors of the Dairymen's League Cooperative Association decided to erect a new building station at Richfield Springs. The old building was sold to J.D. Ibbotson Company. The new station was a dream come true. It was equipped with a glass-lined, brine-jacketed storage tape, a modern boiler room, well-fitted self-closing doors, and an efficient testing room. Charles M. Wyckoff was the then president of the Richfield Springs local, which at the time numbered 110 patrons. Edward D. Deerthick was secretary. Howard M. Curtis was superintendent of the plant. Fred Culbert was foreman, and there were 5 staff members. An early milk train picked up the shipments of raw milk at 9 o'clock in the morning. In addition, the plant separated cream, which which it shipped in raw and pasteurized form. In 1925, another process was added, that of making skim milk powder. By 1933, the plant reached a peak of production. Some 300 dairies, all local patrons, averaged over 200,000 pounds of milk daily during the first period. Through the efforts of the Dairymen's League, the effectiveness of the cooperative movement had been itself felt. Cooperatives, independent of the League, were organized at Fly Creek, South Columbia, and in Van Hornsville. Therefore, the Richfield Springs plant became a receiving center, not only for local milk, but for milk from the wide surrounding area as well. In 1949, for example, under Superintendent F.W. Manchester and William A. Foreman and 45 staff members, the plant processed through the flush period over 300,000 pounds of milk daily. In 1951, the plant was enlarged to handle 40,000 pounds of milk daily, brought in by tank truck from Canastota, Cazenovia, Leonardsville, Pleasant Mount, New Woodstock, Fort Plain, Vergès, Fort Edwards, Rutland, Hartwick, and West Winfield. This was in addition to the milk received by local patrons. In 1955, the new receiving plant was built, and in 1957, the Richfield plant started picking up bulk milk from the Brookfield, Leonardsville, and Edmonston, West Winfield, and the Richfield Springs area. On July 1st of 1958, the manufacturing process was transferred to Vernon. The plant now has 5 employees. The current price, averaging $4.30 per hundredweight, is a far cry from that of over 47 years ago. Yes, dairying is a vital factor in the life of this area. As a testament to that fact is the mural in the recently erected Richfield Springs Post Office. Artist John W. Taylor selected the Richfield Creamery and the Octagon Barn of the Baker's Farm on the west side of Canandaigua Lake as subjects, typifying the place Richfield Springs has won for itself in the heart of the dairy industry. The Dairymen's League closed in 1969. The dairy industry is still heavy and strong in the Richfield Springs, New York area and in Otsego County, New York, but it's not what it was in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s.